you looking to up your real estate investing game? Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Sub 2 Deals Show with your host, Sub 2 expert William Tingle.
Hey Sub-Tours, this is William Tingle of sub2deals.com. I'd like to welcome you to our episode today. We're actually talking about the TV show Survivor. I'm sure most of you guys, even if you don't watch a lot of TV, you're probably familiar with that show. And really the title today is, do you ever feel like you're playing the game Survivor with your sellers? And do you feel like as an investor that your job is sort of to outwit, outlast, and outplay the sellers that you talk to? You ever feel like a predator as a real estate investor? Maybe you've even been called one. Well, I have, and I got to tell you, I didn't like it too much. It's probably not your fault if you feel that way, and I certainly didn't think it was mine. My nature in business is not to be heartless or cutthroat. It's really just a product of what you're taught to be in general as a real estate investor. I mean, after all, as an investor, our job is to make the best deal possible. And sadly, I find that with most investors I meet, there's usually not a lot of regard for the situation that sellers actually left in. Most new investors assume, as they're taught, that they'll really just have to come out swinging and practically go into battle with their sellers, especially the ones who are in trouble and maybe have a lot of equity or what have, and they're just really going to have to beat them down in order to put a really good deal together. A lot of real estate investing courses I've read would have you believe your primary job is to outsmart those sellers and make deals in sort of an adversarial relationship where the seller winds up just taking a beat down. Your negotiating skills, you must be constantly sharpened and honed in order to get already beat down sellers to do things they really don't want to do, all in the interest of saving their credit or avoiding foreclosure or getting out of divorce. But I'm here to tell you that your job in all of this will be much easier and you'll be much happier if you don't do business that way. And you really don't have to. Before we move on, let's talk about investors on the other side of the spectrum. Some investors, new investors, are taught what I call the win-win myth. And I call it that because they base their approach with sellers on the ridiculous notion that even though they feel like it's investor versus seller, and it's really dog eat dog, that they can somehow box it up and paint it up or wrap it up, and they can present it in a way that no one will ever notice or suspect that they're the ones walking out the door with all the marbles. And I'm here to tell you really need to forget about doing business that way. What I want to share with you today is that your job in all of this is not to suit up for war with desperate, down on their luck sellers, because this is a war that's best fought with those same sellers on your side. And it's a lot easier to do things that way. I mean, really think about it. How many more deals could you do if the seller was actually your partner in the whole thing? Now, I'm not talking about an actual business partner, but someone who works with you and wants you to be successful too. A partner in the sense of helping you get things done, and someone who actually wants you to succeed, because the more successful you are in this endeavor, the better they'll come out. So how do you fit in all this? Well, once I learned this approach and changed my way of thinking, my ability to get deals that I otherwise wouldn't have been able to get, it just really skyrocketed. So what is the approach? Well, it's pretty simple, really. It's all in the presentation. Now, I live out of the country, but when I lived stateside, I was a door knocker. Chasing the deal is, and still is, my favorite part. I love to take that Saturday paper. I lived in Georgia, and in Georgia, there were no tip-off documents. And so the first notice that we got of any potential problem at a house that was in foreclosure was the first Saturday morning of the month. And we'd get those Saturday papers, and we'd have the foreclosure notices. And I would take those and go through with my highlighter and mark off all the ones that had the older security deeds on them. And I'd go out and I'd just knock on that door. I'd get straight to the seller, and doing it that way, I got to those sellers days before the scared guys, the ones that mail cards and letters, before they could get their cards and letters in the seller's hands. So I had a big jump on that. Now, door knocking let me put together deals that I could have never gotten if I just mailed cards or letters. And since these deals were the ones with the old loans, the profits were the most handsome. Now, when we come back in just a minute, I'm going to tell you guys exactly what the approach is and how to use it. And I guarantee you, you're going to get a lot farther working with sellers and having their cooperation and having them help you get things done than you will trying to do things in an adversarial way. So, you guys come back.
The Sub2 Deals Show with your host, Sub2 expert William Tingle. We'll be right back. Hey Sub2ers, do you want to learn how to get the deed but need a little help getting started? Want to learn how to fill out the paperwork, how to use a land trust, how to market for deals, how to negotiate with sellers, and more? Join us in the Sub2 Deals Facebook coaching group. Get the benefits of one-on-one coaching without the big price tag. Learn to do Sub2 right with coaching in a group setting and mastermind format. Head over to sub2deals.com right now and click on consulting and group coaching. We'll save you a seat. Back to the show, the Sub2 Deals Show, with your host, Sub2 expert William Tingle.
Okay, we're back, and we're talking about feeling like you're on a Survivor episode when you're dealing with your sellers and how to avoid that. Now, how you present yourself at the door makes all the difference in being perceived as a predator or a knight in shining armor to these people. It isn't just a matter of saying the words, but you actually have to mean it. If you go there with a heart to help someone, you can do that and still make a very handsome profit. So when your seller opens the door, what I would typically do would be say, "Hi, Mr. Smith." And if he confirmed he was indeed Mr. Smith, I would just say, "Mr. Smith, my name is William Tingle, and I'm here because I understand the bank is trying to take this house away from you. And I'd like to see if there's anything I can do to help you stop that from happening." Now, I didn't say anything about buying the house. I didn't mention foreclosure. I said I was there to see if I could help, and I meant that. Now, with all sellers, will this be a viable option? Well, of course not. Some sellers had a bad situation, and maybe they've taken some steps to correct it. Maybe they had lost their job, and now they've got a new one, and it's just a matter of getting things caught up. And if that's the case, you certainly want to help them get those things done. You know probably a lot more about real estate and the ins and outs of dealing with the foreclosure and actually working with the lender than they will ever know. So if you can put some things in place to help them get those things sorted out, great. You and the seller will come to an understanding why you're trying to sort everything out if that's not viable. And that's just a natural part of the process. Some sellers will be able to save their house, and in those cases where they can, you'll be a hero. Now, to the ones that can't, their circumstances haven't changed, and you're able to help them understand that by sitting there and going over the numbers with them, you'll still be their hero for trying to help. And you offer yourself as the seller's knight in shining armor, and you're going to be fighting or negotiating with anyone that's out there to hurt them. As a potential hero, the seller's going to be your partner in all this. And it will be your job as the resident knight in shining armor to protect them and get them where they want to go after the dust settles. Now, realize that your seller's in a crisis situation and his financial well-being is under attack. The dragons and the black knights are surrounding him, and it's your job to assist him in a defense of his real estate assets and minimize the damage from the attackers. Do we fight? You better believe we do. Do we fight real estate sellers? No, you better believe we don't. We show up and we bring our army to do battle with anyone who has him in the line of fire. Now, our job is strictly to be a knight in shining armor. We're there to help if we can, and if the situation proves to be something that we can't help with, then we certainly want to try to make a deal. But we're establishing up front that we're there to help first. Our role is to defend the seller's financial well-being, and our fight is with the people that are attacking him, not with him. We're not trying to twist a deed out of his hand or try to do some shady sort of thing to to take his house and make all the profit. Now understand this, you can get unbelievably wealthy as a real estate investor, and you don't have to outwit, outlast, or outplay sellers. To get them to part with their real estate. It's really a terrible way to do business, and not the type of profession I'd want to really claim. Instead, just refuse to take on any role other than the hero. It's your job to save them, from what's the pending foreclosure, or anything you can help them as far as the divorce or tax liens. There are a lot of distressed situations that you can help someone with in this way. You've got the skills and the resources and the know-how to protect the seller, and if you can do that, then you should. Most of you probably won't be door knocking. It's a very profitable way to do real estate investing. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed meeting the people. And once I changed my attitude about why I was there, I was able to do better deals and just had a lot more satisfaction out of actually doing them. There were cases where we could put some things together and the sellers got to keep their house. They never actually turned into sellers. But what you need to know is that most people that are in foreclosure today will be in foreclosure again within the next 12 months. And when you've established yourself as that hero or someone that has a heart to help, who do you think they're going to call the next time there's a problem? And the next time there's a problem, they may not be able to pull things together. And then you'll be in a position where you can come in and make some type of a deal with them. But you really don't have to go in there thinking that you've got to steal the house. We joke a lot about that, about stealing in slow motion and that sort of thing. But the truth is that if you have a heart to help someone, it'll come back to you in business. Now, there's nothing really better than having a distressed seller, someone that has just been beaten black and blue by the banks, lenders, or any other predators that are after them, tell you, thanks, I don't know what we would have done if you haven't called. You really saved the day. Where else can you really make an obscene profit and be thought of as a hero by the person paying you? Working with sellers in trouble is much easier than trying to make something happen that does nothing to further that guy's situation or put him in a better place. So anyway, battles are fought and won, but we never fight them against our sellers. We always want to come in there as the hero. If there's some way we can help them in their situation, we will. And even if we can't, if we can still buy the house, we want to do as much for that seller as we can. Now, starting today, I want you to think of yourself as a hero, as a knight in shining armor, and not the standard thought of predator real estate investor. It's just not necessary to be that way to be successful in this business. There's too much money to be made by actually helping people. I call sellers every day, get calls from sellers that have gotten my card, and am able to work out a situation for them that puts them in a better place than they would be without me, and it puts me in a better place financially. And, as far as just having a good feeling for being able to help someone. So change the way you look at things when you're dealing with distressed sellers. Change your heart about actually being able to help. And I think you'll find that you'll get a lot of monetary reward and personal satisfaction out of the business. Anyway, just my thoughts today on dealing with distressed sellers, people in foreclosure, divorce situations, any other situation where there might be a possibility of losing the house. So I want to thank you guys for listening. If you need to get in touch with me, you can contact me at william@sub2deals.com, and we'll see you next time. So get out there and buy some houses.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Sub2 Deals Show with William Tingle. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a review and subscribe. And for more great content and to stay up to date, visit sub2deals.com, on Facebook at Sub2Deals. We'll catch you next time.